Yes, and we had a woman that works with us. Is Brenda here? I think she's behind the scenes. But she made the food, so it was all homemade, and she actually worked with the local grocery store in town that's all organic. It's called Wheatsville. It's a co-op. And so she worked with them in their kitchen, and they were kind enough to donate some time, some of their top chefs. I'm being told to move over. so, so anyway, yeah, there's a lot of what I'm learning about food, and I think my next book is going to be called My Healthy Diet That Almost Killed Me, is that there's so much more we're learning about food and how it plays into health that's very counterculture and very non-mainstream. And pretty much anything we've ever learned is wrong. So many of us with the best intentions about being healthy are learning that our diets that we've been grown up in over decades now to think that it's very healthy is not. So that's one piece of the food. And another thing that I'll be talking about a little bit in the intentionality section, but is with food especially, is that we're so in these rushed lifestyles that we'll eat anything and we're hurting our bodies and damaging them, and we're not taking time with our food. So like our food is nourishment to our body. It keeps us healthy. And once we can learn that and wrap it into a lifestyle, but food made with love is very different than food just thrown together. And so Gary and I have really changed our lives. We used to eat out probably 5 nights out of the week and fast, go, and I don't even know the last time. We had a date night, I guess, maybe a few weeks ago. And we're like, oh, wow, this is very nice just, for a date night and to get some other good food. But the food now is all at home and made with love, and it tastes different. It's a different appreciation and just learning to be healthy differently, like from the inside out. And so, yeah, all that food was made with a lot of love, and it's completely healthy, all paleo. And I hope you enjoyed it. And we just didn't want to give you normal, sandwiches from Jason's Deli or something. So I hope you notice that. All right, so we're going to go. If you'll notice the foundational piece up there, that's what we're going to do today, and wrap that up. So again, to go through the process, we start with our promises, which are our vows and our commitments. How'd those exercises go? Were they good? Did you enjoy them? Is it fun just to spend some time looking at them again or talking through them? And we'll talk about this in the practices section. I keep telling you what's going to come up. But Gary and I, we look at those every single year at our annual retreat. So what we're sharing here is what really is the framework of our marriage and what we work on a regular basis. And you'll learn everything that we do, and I want you to share what you do. So who's been married the longest in the room? Margaret and Paul, you 28 years? Anybody beat that? Yay, all right. Anybody else over 20 years? All right, Gwen and Dean, awesome. All right, who's over 10? Most of the room, awesome. Okay. Yay. Anyway, there's obviously some really great marriages in here, and this is the place to take them where they are and make them that much better. And that's the beauty about life, is that it's never ending. We can continue to grow and expand and learn and become different people, and it's fun to learn and grow and become different together and experience that with another human being by our side. So, foundation. We started with promises. Now, this next piece is philosophies. And this is a big chunk, and we're going to spend just a little bit of time on this. And philosophies and psychologies, I split them up because they're two different things, but they're very connected at the same time. So philosophies, really our philosophy about life is what we believe to be true. It's what we care about. And it's really our story for what is a good life. Like, what do we care about? What's a good life to us? What do we believe to be true? What is reality? Like all these very philosophical type questions. And many times, I know I see my son, he's doing a lot of traveling, and what I really enjoy about him right now, he's in the back of the room, Kale, if you see him wandering around. And he's spent 6 months traveling Europe, and when he's 20, and when we spend time together, he's really in this philosophical questioning, like what's the meaning of life? And what am I supposed to do with my life? And it's a confusing time. I think if any of us remember being at that age, it can be confusing and lots of emotions and think we're supposed to figure it out. But there's really a beauty there that I really love spending time with him, because he's got that curiosity that we tend to lose once, we get in our lives and all this stuff and success and ambition, and we stop asking questions. We stop being in this mood of curiosity and wonder. We sort of get set in our ways or our belief systems, and we get a little bit stuck, and it's just because life is busy. So I'm really loving, spending time with my son right now is really fun for me, is that reminder, yeah, that's so fun. That answering those questions and spending time is really, really cool. I remember being 20 and traveling and writing in my journal and questioning things and wondering, what is this and why is that? So I want us to spend some time rekindling that again too, really getting back in touch as to what we believe in. And many times we've done this work individually, either at our younger ages before we got married individually, or even maybe spent some time at those conferences separately that we've talked about, some work here or there. And what I'd like for us to do is to co-invent some of our philosophies or beliefs together, share maybe what we believe to be true, especially with this thing called money. Where did it come from? And what do we believe as a couple? What do we want our marriage vows to be and our philosophy to be? What do we stand for? What do we believe in? It's the two of us. And it doesn't mean we have to adopt and be 100% aligned with all of our beliefs, but there can be a belief system that we do share that is in common between the two of us. And so, what do we believe? What do we care for? What is our reality? So those are some questions we want to ask. The other piece with, do you want to turn up the philosophy slide? Turn on, do you have the, that's right. There you go, the next one. So the reason why checking in with what we believe in is important is because behaviors follow beliefs. So many times when we're in these behaviors that are producing breakdowns or arguments, or they just tend to produce outcomes that we don't want, many times it's easy to focus on the behavior and the breakdown and getting stuck there, but what we really need to do is come back and look at what's the belief system, because we act out what we believe to be true, or what, usually feelings, and before feelings come these belief systems. So, and especially in the context of money, many times why we have some friction is because who came from very similar backgrounds when it comes to money as their spouse? No hands? A couple of us. Okay, well that's pretty uncommon. And then so if now how many of us actually came from maybe parents or had some sort of really good upbringing when it came to money? Good examples. So there's still some of us. So you guys are lucky. Where do the rest of us acquire our money beliefs? Usually from dysfunctional sources. I've got something wrong with me. Am I showing bra or something? Yeah, okay. That doesn't show well on camera? No? You always show well on camera. That's right. Yeah. So anyway, with money, we tend to bring these beliefs with money into our relationships without any thought. It's just what our parents did or what somebody did. And we carry that with us because we don't really take, did anybody learn money in school? John, a little bit, but most of us didn't learn money. So some of us were very lucky that we actually had parents that taught us some good money knowledge and maybe money skills. But the rest of us, we've adopted it from some sort of probably dysfunctional or not all that powerful or great of influence. But that's all we know. That's what we do as children, is we take from our parents and other sources and we live that until when? Until it doesn't work anymore, or we actually intentionally decide that belief system doesn't work for me, so I'm going to change it and learn something else. But it's hard to learn a lot. It's really hard even to learn about money. And money and marriage, again, remember that intersection, is probably like the two most important things in life, and it's the two things that we don't talk about or spend time on regularly. And they're a very important part of Wealthy. So moving forward, we want to spend time like, what is my belief system about money? kind of life in general, but in this context about money. Where did it come from? Is it serving me? Is it not serving me? And what is it that I might want to change? Like, that sort of thing. And we want to do that work individually and then share that with our spouse. Because for most of us, we've probably not had that opportunity to really take time to check in with our own money beliefs and where they've come from. And are they really serving us? And are they maybe serving our marriage? And sometimes we can maybe even let go or think, I kind of do that, and maybe that's not the best thing. Maybe I could do that better. Yeah, my parents, Dad always did the books, so I'm always thinking the man should do the books, but that's just always the way it was. Or I grew up very poor, so I've acquired a lot of these poor tendencies and brought those forward. And Gary grew up from a different type of background. And so, this is an opportunity to really look at those, to observe them, and then talk about them and open that space so that we can understand each other maybe at a deeper level. That as tomorrow we talk about money and spend a lot more time on money, hopefully again we come from more of a place of understanding. So there's another philosophy, that's philosophy like theoretically. Then there's philosophy is like my own philosophy and Gary's philosophy. And this is a philosophy that has completely changed in my journey. And I think, remember the story, my first part of my journey was all about acquisition and buying stuff, and more stuff the better, and being in that American mindset of consumption. And we're in an economy of consumption. We're in a culture of consumption. Americans are all about consuming. Do you know that we spend more on self-storage in this country than we do spending going to the movies every year? And that's a big number. So we have lots of stuff. And I think, there's even this idea that the more money we make, the bigger the houses, the fancier the cars, the more the this, the more the that. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's zero judgment in this space. Like, believe me, I'm the last person to judge or to say, my way is the right way. But in my own journey, I have acquired my own philosophy, and Gary and I have really moved this direction together. And it's called the philosophy is called minimalism. Do y'all know what that is? So minimalism really is about living a life of meaning with less stuff. And the idea behind it is before we consume something, we really look at it and say, does this bring meaning to my life? Or does it really add value? So at least we're checking in with our spending. So versus just spending and putting things on the credit card or walking through the mall or buying the pair of shoes or getting the new fishing pole. I don't know what guys buy. Gary always has some Amazon thing coming. But it's to really start checking in, like what does this purchase mean? Because it's so easy just to buy shit. Especially the more money you make, we have a lot more disposable income and just more shit we can buy, especially for our kids. Kel and Macy pretty much know that mom doesn't spend a lot of money on their stuff. They need to earn their own money and start figuring a lot of this out. They're not always happy about it. Macy's really good at negotiating for more money. I don't know how she does it, but she tends to get more out of us. But minimalism is about pause. It's about pausing before purchase and just checking in, what's the meaning of this purchase? And so adopting this minimalistic philosophy, Gary and I have gotten rid of a lot of stuff. And I have to tell you, it just feels so good. I just feel so much lighter. Even we don't really have junk drawers anymore. We don't have closets full of things. We just did a move, and we literally got rid of probably 50% of our house. And we're moving into a new place here after we remodel it. And we're going to be very conscious about any acquisitions or purchases we make. And it's freeing to not be tied to stuff. And so I've come up with a couple of mantras for myself that I wanted to share with you. And one is meaning before material. So in this consuming lifestyle that's just so easy, we're part of the culture. It's, there's a lot of money in this room, high incomes are in this room. So it's meaning before material, and checking in like the meaning of the stuff we buy, but just the meaning of life, the meaning of our purpose, like why are we here, and how does this stuff fit to sort of support what we care about, and getting over just the buying more stuff because we have more money. Or sometimes we buy a lot of stuff when we don't have the money and then it goes on the credit card. So it's meaning before material, and then it's creation over consumption. So part of what's been so uplifting again for me personally, and where I see for Gary and me, is that since we don't buy things, we just don't go shopping. Where we spend most of our money now, which is not cheapo, by the way, and any of you that are doing this know this, is on health stuff. So the food being all grass-fed beefs and all the paleo stuff it's not cheap. We go to the farmer's market, everything's organic, and it's we've gotten rid of the happy hour bills and the eating out restaurant bills, but we've really replaced those with how expensive it is to eat really healthy. And the second part of, and we'll talk more about this, and I think Ann will talk a lot about this on Sunday, but it's supplementation. I don't even know, I mean, Gary has to tell me, but we spend probably $2,500 a month just on supplements. And so, so that health piece. So, but that's the thing, the focus is really moved from acquisition and buying more stuff and filling bigger houses and buying fancier cars or whatever the case is. And we don't shop anymore, very rarely do we ever shop. And even shopping, do you see how casual I am? I did buy a new pair of jeans, but outside of that, didn't buy anything new to speak for 3 days and gotten rid of half my closet in the last move, and am really looking to just buy the few things that I'm gonna wear and keep it very simple and move the purchasing power to meaning. But the other place outside of the health stuff that's really expensive now is creation. So what the money now is buying is time. And what I understand now for me is that time is the most important resource there is. And not time to be busy, but time to create, time to invent, time to experience. And Pasha, she's a creator. Her business is a creation. So that, there's a time, like that's what she's even dedicated her life to do. But create new businesses, create new ideas, create new relationships, and being able to move that money to the time. And it's really, for me, it adds new meaning to life, because now it's about impact and it's about creation and adding something new to the world. So being more of a creator than a consumer, giving versus taking. And it's just a different way of living that to me has been very uplifting and inspiring. And now I'm more inspired because I'm looking to new sources of knowledge and inspiration for me to pull from so that I can turn that into something. So it's using, again, that money to create, or even that money to recover. So that's another piece of health, and part of what almost killed me the first time, one of the things, was I was just burning the candle on both ends all the time. Just I didn't think my body had limits, and I'd push, and type A, and uber achiever and uber success everything, and all about the money and top 1% and yada yada yada. And I just realized that that's not a way to live either. So it's about giving much more time to me and those around me for recovery, to take care of self. So that's really fits into the minimalism philosophy as a philosophy. So I invite you as a couple to really look at what is sort of that core philosophy that you believe in, that is sort of the foundation of a lot of your choices, of your behaviors, because behaviors follow beliefs. And to think about that. And that's mine and Gary's, and there are others, of course, but ours really is moving as much away from consumption as possible. And the more things we get rid of, just the lighter we feel, and more opportunities that seem to present themselves. So that's the second piece of philosophy. The third piece of philosophy, and this is what we care about. And those of you that have an Aji background, we had the 13 PDHCs, and that just was always too much for me to hold and try to remember and make sense of. And I've really filtered mine down distilled them down to the 7 F words. And we have those here. But this is the philosophy for a wealthy, wealthy life. These are the different elements of care, of how to care for our life, and have a framework of what to care about and how to organize our life in these different concerns. So again, the first one is faith. And faith is different things to different people. So our faith, for those of us that have a religious practice, a religious background, that can be our faith. There's lots of different faiths in here, and I think that's the beauty of the world, is that so many faiths that can come together and believe in something bigger than ourselves. But really, to me, that's what faith is faith is just some sort of belief that there's some universal forces at work that's bigger than ourselves, and that's at play. And I'm more aware of that than ever, of that universal force. And for me, getting to a place in my life where I feel almost connected there it's a really spiritual place, and it's a place that makes life really grounded, is to having some sort of tap in, maybe. And I believe so much of my creativity is inspired by some universal force. So that's one part of faith. There's a second part of faith, and the second part of faith is letting go. How many type A's are in here? How many type A, OCD, type of somewhat control people are in here? So the good side of that is we tend to be successful and we get shit done, and we work at a fast pace, and we're perfectionists, and life looks a lot of times pretty close to perfect. And there is no such thing as perfection, so sometimes that can produce its own breakdowns. And again, that was the life I was in, is like things were never good enough, things were never perfect enough, I was never good enough, and control. And I felt the more in control I felt, the more safe I felt, or I thought I did. But now I've realized that faith, there is a place to be planned and purposeful and strategic, and we have to get things done, and we have to produce, and we have to set vision and all these different elements. And then there's this place to let go. It's the time to let go. It's a time like, I've done everything I can do. And my most recent example of this for me is this event. And even last night I was like, man, I just need one more day. I just feel like I'm not prepared, and everybody's running around. 11 o'clock at night, we're still doing conference calls, and everything, these guys are working, and we're like, oh, if we just had one more day. And the truth of the matter is if we had one more day, we'd be saying if we just had one more day. And if we had another day for that, we'd be saying there's just one more day, right? And it's hard, but it's getting to the place like, we've done everything we can. We've tried to pre-think everything we can. So now we just have to let go, and it's going to take shape and form and fill in the spaces it's meant to. And so now it's time. We've done all the preparation we can do. Let go and let the forces work, right? So it's getting to that place of letting go. And again, that's just such a freeing place where we don't have to control everything. We don't have to be perfect. We don't have to have our spouse be perfect. We can just be human. And like, you know what? It might work these 3 days, and it might not. I hope it does. But if it doesn't, we did the best that we could with what we knew at the time, and let go and let it take over. So that's a big part of faith, is the universal force bigger than ourselves, and then 2, just letting go, especially as type A, OCD types like myself. The second part, the second F, is friends and family. And this is another place when we're spending time, it's, where do we spend our time? Where are we creating these experiences? And it's friends and family. At the end of the day, this was another big lesson for me. I think we can be success is important. Listen, I'm all after success, don't get me wrong. But it's not success for success' sake. The success needs to be for the sake of something else. And what is that something else? That the success, that's a different topic. I'm not going there today. But that the success, what's the purpose of the success? And really get in touch with that. But the family and friends, it's like part of the why. That's like, what do we want with our family and friends? Who are our families and friends? What family and friends are serving us, and maybe what family and friends are not? Gary and I, he's really had a tough time here recently because one of his own relationships with a family member, he sort of had to cut it off and have the conversation like, this is my life, these are my terms, this is my family, and you can either, here's the boundaries, you can either act according to what's acceptable for us, or you don't get a relationship with me anymore. And this was apparent. So those are hard conversations, but our relationships have to serve us because we get one chance that we know of while we're here. So we want to make sure that we choose our friends, we choose our family, and that they serve us and we serve them. And a story I put in my book here is that, and family, especially family, but family can be, it doesn't have to be blood relatives. Like really my family is an adopted family, and those people closest to me I feel like our family, like Tamara's family, Jen is family, of course, Gary and my kids are family, that one's obvious, Lori is family. So it's like choosing family. Like these are my soul sisters, or these are my people, and they're in my life, and you know, if I'm in jail and whatever, you know, 2 o'clock in the morning, I can call them and they're not going to ask questions or judge. They're just going to be there like any family member would. And, you know, as I said, I grew up with a pretty dysfunctional family. My dad was a really horrible alcoholic, like, you know, just really, really bad. But he is a recovering alcoholic, and he's been sober for, I think, 25 years. And so it's his second chance. He's really become this great father. And they might poke their head in here and there, but they live here in Austin, and they just are here for Gary and me all the time, and we couldn't even live without him. But my father, I didn't even find this out till I was about 20, believe it or not, but my father, who is my real parent, and really the only parent I have, and my stepmom Judy, who's like a mom to me, he's not my blood father. He is adopted father. So I don't even know who my blood father is, believe it or not. And that caused its own psychological issues for a while till I worked through that one. But like, and here there's more to the story that I found out later, just in case you're curious. But my father married my mother when she was pregnant with somebody else's child. So to me, if that doesn't say family more than anything, it's like he chose to be my dad. And once he got over his alcoholism, he was able to be a father. But that has so much meaning to me that my dad chose to father me, and I don't even know if I could do that, right? So we can choose our families. We should, you know, we can choose what's acceptable and not acceptable. We can choose our friends. How much time are we spending with friends? So family and friends. The third F is the finance F, and we're going to spend a lot of time on that tomorrow, so we won't cover that here, but we have to take care of the money piece. And then we have the feelings. So this is a big one. And the feeling F is about how we feel. And first time I wrote this, I called it, I think, fitness and diet or something. And I realized later on, like, oh no, how we feel is so much bigger than diet and exercise. And so feeling really is checking in with how do we feel, like really feel. Many of us feel strung out and tired and out of balance and don't get enough sleep and don't feel our relationships are, you know, as strong as they could be. And you know, we feel frustrated a lot of the times, and we don't feel healthy, and you know, we just don't feel great. And the goal here, I mean, don't we all want to feel great, like full of vitality and energy, and that's the goal, no matter what age we are. I mean, we change as we age in different things, but vitality, energy, and there's so much. We're just doing things that are zapping our energy. So energy, flow, vitality, psychological, mental, emotional, and all of these things take work. Like we have to be aware of them and intentional about them. So feelings is a big one, and the big goal here is just to determine what do we want? What is health and well-being, and how do we feel, and how do we get to feel better and change our lives or produce our lives in that way? And then the final one, well, not the final one, the next one is fun. So fun is about entertainment. Fun is about in-the-moment experience. Fun is taking a pause, like no connection to any outcome. That's really the difference with fun with anything else. I can confuse fun, like building a business is fun. And it is, I do enjoy it, but I have to remind myself that no, work is not meant to be fun. Like, it's learning how to have fun outside of work and outside of, family time or whatever. But fun's the entertainment piece. Like, where are we intersecting to make sure we have fun? We're human. We need to be playful. We need to have fun and laugh and joke. And usually the way to do that is to have family and friends and different things in our life and some entertainment pieces. But, and fun's different than passion. So we'll talk about passion here in a second. But fun's really in the moment. Like, just right now, have fun. The next one is flourish. And I love this one. I mean, I love all the F's, but I love flourish. And flourish is about growth. think of the word flourish, what it means, just growth, flourishing. And to me, this is self-actualization. This is personal growth, personal development. What I like to think here and what I sort of challenge everyone to do is work harder on yourself than you do at your job. That's the idea of flourish. Because when we work on ourselves, we can't help but it manifests through our job. It shows up in our work. It shows up in our families. It shows up in our relationships. But it's hard to take time away from the job, away from the family or whatever to flourish. And that's, again, part of this group here and just my vision for what we can all to do together is that we can flourish together. We can, as couples, we can build this flourish piece into our marriages as a couple so we can, by design, start designing our lives and learning and growing and building together. So that's the flourish piece. And then the final one's philanthropy with an F. So, and this is the legacy piece. This is really the piece of where do we give outside of ourselves, and each of us have a different definition to that, what that is, and so it's just that philanthropic. I really believe as human beings we're designed to leave the world a better place. We're designed to help and to give and contribute. So that's the philanthropy piece, and this is, I added the 7 Fs, the seventh F. That I had 6 Fs, and then I did realize that no, there's one piece missing, and it's the giving piece, the giving back, because we're gifted so much, we're given so much, especially in this country. We're just very lucky. So but taking care of self first, and taking care, making sure we're healthy and we're balanced and we're solid, and then giving, not the martyr, not do everything for everybody else first at the sake of our own, health and happiness. So those are the 7 F words. Did you want them to do exercises now, or?
I was going to have Christina talk about psychology, because I think your next exercise really will be more powerful if you look at both together, because they both look back at the 7 F words. So are you guys okay for her to go ahead and move in and talk a little bit about psychology? Okay.
Okay, I'm going to get my chair for this one. Will you grab my stool?
Yep, I'm using it over here.
All right, It's become your table.
Yeah.
All right, any questions on the 7 F words? Can you remember 7 F words? 7 F words to effing wealthy life?
To an effing wealthy life.
Yeah.
Is that what you just said?
Yeah. That's what I said.
Yeah.
Oh. Speak to the right. Yes. Okay.
Does anything stand out among the 7 Fs? Was there anything new or like an aha that anybody had that you'd be willing to share? Flourish for you?
Flourish.
What about it? Because I'm always taking care of everyone else. Oh, and taking time to grow yourself so you have more to give. That's great. She's saying, I give to everyone else in my life, and it's not
That's
like,
such an important piece. And I think, again, as women, we tend to give to everyone else first and take care. That's part of our DNA. And what we don't realize is if we're not healthy, we can't give as much. And I think we all want to give as women. That's who we are. And we take care of our children. We take care of families, other people's families. It's in our DNA. It's part of being a woman. But we tend to do it at the sake of our own health. And the way I've organized my thinking around that is the healthier that I am, the more I can give. And so me first. And that really is, it's me first, my health first, my well-being, my everything first, and then everyone else second. And it's a little counter to what we're expected of. Right, exactly. So, but yeah, take care of self first and flourish and grow there. And then, then it just comes out what you can teach your children or teach the people around you or what you're learning. And I think it creates even a different dimension of a relationship.
Why don't you start with feelings? Why do you start with faith?
So the question is why did I start with feelings versus faith? I started with faith because my own personal belief system is faith is first, like this universal force and connected to whatever the universe is that's bigger than ourselves. Because at the end of the day, we're these teeny tiny microscopic things in the space of this universe. And if we're too consumed with us first versus really realizing that life is much bigger than ourselves, I'm trying to have my teenage son sort of realize that the life is bigger than just himself. Kale. But no, I think when we can tap into the universal force and then we have that connectivity and we have some faith and good is good enough and we know who we are in the scope of sort of what our why is in the universe or on this planet, then it's easier to connect to our feelings or to be able to reflect on them or identify with them and be okay with them. Does that help? Anybody else? Awesome. All right, so psychologies. Now this one is a hard one for me, so I'm going to try not to tear up. I'm not a crier, so if when it does happen, it's very deep in me. So psychologies is kind of like how we feel, like the way I boil it down is philosophies is what we believe and psychologies are how we feel. And psychologies.
Sorry. This is part of being married right here.
Oh. You get to look down my top?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody need water while we're doing that? I'm gonna bring it out. Yes, thank you.
Pointing up too. There was some little bra action going on.
Oh.
Perfect. You clipped it to the bra, so that keeps it from. Yeah, that work. It's those deep V's. Yeah. I wear them too sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
I think it shows.
I know your bras probably show.
Do we want to clip this back here so it'll stay?
Good.
There's probably some clip.
Clip the shirt right over there.
Yeah, just clip this in the back and I'll hold it down. Everybody say hello to Patrick. He's our amazing videographer. There we go. Good, fix me.
We'll take a break and adjust our wax toss.
Up or down?
Pull the left shoulder up. Left. Good.
Okay.
Next, we'll get out the double-sided tape.
Yeah, exactly. We'll have to get some of that.
Oh yeah, that tape.
We go back a slide.
Oh, yeah.
All right, any other thoughts or questions while the film crew is getting everything set up? Getting water? Which F word do you struggle with the most, do you think? Fun? Who else struggles with fun? Yeah. No? Everything else? Yeah. Why is fun hard for some of us?
No, I'm not being productive.
Uh-huh.
Now you're fun, but like you said initially, work becomes fun.
Mm-hmm, right,
Even though it's not supposed to, it is.
right.
You're losing focus.
Yeah, it does. I almost feel guilty if I'm having fun sometimes.
It's tough. The first couple days going anywhere is always difficult.
It is.
Because it was still working.
Yeah, it always takes the first couple days to unwind.
Get back, it's like, oh my gosh.
Exactly.
It takes work to have fun.
It does take work to have fun. It does take work to have fun.
You have to like put that in on top of your other
That's so true. And then you'll take a lot of time to make it fun and it doesn't end up fun. And then it's like, ah.
Like our staycation this year.
Yeah,
We thought that was going to be fun.
exactly. It does take work to have fun. Yeah, that's so true. Sometimes it's just not worth the effort. That's-
Okay, are we good?
Okay.
I'll wait for the water to get filled up so we have more cold water.
You have to be healthy enough to have fun.
You do have to be healthy enough to have fun. It's hard to have fun when you're tired all the time.
That's true. You have to be rested to have fun.
Yeah, right.
Okay. You getting some notes? Okay, good.
Okay. Tell me when to go.
Okay. So, people get settled.
All right, is everybody settled? Does anybody need anything? Those Epic, by the way, those Epic packages are really great, especially for travel, because most trail mix is full with lots of sugar and a lot of nastiness. And so this is a really healthy trail mix that I travel with everywhere. And you can pick it up at Whole Foods, I think, probably most locations. And they have these nice bars, protein bars that are buffalo or different things. They're really good, but just solid protein, but really great for travel. And the flour tortillas, I don't know if we have anything that showed the flour tortillas. Did you guys like the almond flour tortillas? They are to die for. So it's a company out of San Antonio. It's a really great story. It's a mom and pop, and the woman, they're a Hispanic family, and they're down in San Antonio. And she was a Hispanic woman and lots of tortillas and the Mexican fare, and she got really sick and changed her diet and lifestyle, started learning about it and changed it, and realized her normal Mexican diet didn't really fit into being healthy. And so, and especially the flour. So she wanted to be gluten-free and flour-free. So she came up with these almond meal tortillas for herself, and she started sharing them with family. And then they started loving these tortillas and making them and everything. And then she turned it into a business, and now it's a small family business. And it's a really cool story. When we checked in with Wheatsville, where we get these, it's the #1 grocery selling item in Wheatsville, and they can't keep them in the stores. And now and Whole Foods has some. It's like one of the #1, however, ringing up of that type of, in all the flour and tortillas. And we have the Whole Foods down here. If you're out of town, make sure to check out the Whole Foods. But it's enormous, and they have lots of different choices. And so her almond meal tortillas are the #1 selling tortillas of everything, which is a pretty big deal. So buy these. They're amazing, and we live off of them. But the enchiladas were made with that. We're having carnitas made with them, and it's just all almond meal and healthy stuff. So anyway, hope you enjoyed those. Good, healthy stuff. All right, are we ready? Okay, Patrick says I'm good to go. So Psychologies, the research shows, based on what I found, is that 80% of our life is psychology and 20% is reality. So out of our day-to-day life, only 20% is really real, and 80% we make up. So if that stat's even close to being true, what does that mean? Like, where's that showing up? Any thoughts? Well, if 80% of our day-to-day life is we're in our psychology, like we're just kind of living off what we feel or what we're making up, and only 20% is like real, how would that affect our lives? Like what in our marriages, or especially in our marriages?
Positive or negative?
It could be both.
Depends on where the 20% is. If the 20% of reality is at work and the 80% of what we make up is at home, we just catastrophic.
Well, how many times do we even have, let's say, even disagreements that are all about feeling, and it's not grounded in anything, or we just are set in some sort of being right or whatever, and it's just not grounded in anything. It's just kind of how we feel at the moment or whatever. But I think, this group probably less than most, because it's a pretty intentional group. But out there just in the world, people are just floating around in all these feelings and beliefs that are completely ungrounded, untrue, and they're just like making shit up and standing by it as though it is true. So it's just something to be aware of, and to know that our psychologies are real and they affect our lives and especially affect our marriages. And what I've learned in my own journey is our psychologies are very delicate. And like any other thing with health, they really need to be taken care of. Our psychology does. And so I've alluded several times that 2013 was a pretty rough year for me. And it started out with 2012 was a really great year. And again, uber ambitious Christina, I had this goal. Like, I wanted to be the top of the real estate industry, and I wanted to own it. And I just wanted to be a leader, like top leader in the real estate industry. And I got pretty close to that. I mean, 2011, 2012, any of those of you that might know some of my real estate career followed that, I think you would agree that I kind of came out of nowhere and went straight to the top and got lots of national attention and created a blog, and it went viral, and Apple filmed the company, and USA Today was here, and Evernote filmed us, and then I was asked to speak all across the country. I was speaking at the top industry events. I was really known as a disruptor in technology and changing real estate and, you know, anything they made up about me. But really, I was just outspoken and really challenging the industry to be different, to be better. And I did come from a good place. I really did believe that to be true. But I was just intent on being at the top, like getting there at all costs. And no limits, like I said, burning the candle at both ends. And I can't get a metaphor, so just you can laugh. By the way, I usually confuse and put two together. But I was after it, very ambitious, and speaking all over the country. I was hanging out with the founder of Zillow, if anybody's heard of Zillow. Like Spencer and I would have dinner together. I would hang out with the president, CEO of like Realtor.com, another industry leader. Brad Inman's a friend of mine who leads the industry. Any association leader. I really did make it to the proverbial top of real estate, whatever that means. A couple things happened. It's like when I got there, I thought, really, is this it? Like, where do I go from here? Like, it's so destination that I thought, okay, I thought getting there, wherever there is, would be different than it is. But I was there, and I was speaking, and I was starting to feel really good about myself, too. I was like, man, I rock. I'm at the top. I'm hanging with these people. This was my ambition. I'm asked to speak all over the country. People are coming to me. I mean, it was crazy around here. People are flying in all the time to see this thing, and, you know, I was very full of myself. And then, like, the defining moment was I was asked to speak at an event. It was the national, there's these things called real estate associations and MLSs. And I was asked to speak at the top one, the one that leads all the others, like the very top of this association MLS. And it doesn't mean anything to you that's not in the real estate industry, but those in the industry know what I mean. And this is the number one. It's where all the top leaders of MLS and associations go to hear the thought leaders, blah, blah, blah. And they bring in wild speakers. And I did two back-to-back. I did this Inman conference where there were two keynotes, and the keynote before me was the CMO of Virgin Airlines. And then I was right after her, so that was the keynote. And then there was a keynote right before me at this other conference, which was the top, I can't remember his name, but the top economics person with the president at the time, and then I was the second speaker. So always second, but right behind these two big people they brought in. So I'm speaking at this association conference. I fly into San Francisco. I open it. I opened this particular time, I actually opened it, and I nailed it. And I don't know if any of you speak on stage or anything, and I'm not a speaker, but I was doing a lot of speaking. And it was I just nailed it. Like, it was a performance. I hit every mark. I nailed it. I got a standing ovation. I was on top of the world. I just felt amazing. And then, that's great. I get off stage, you know, shaking hands, blah, blah, blah. I go out in the lobby, and all of a sudden, this weird feeling came over me, and I thought, that feels really weird. So I went down and laid I'm somebody who has a lot of energy and always feel great. And so I go lay down in the hotel room, and I was supposed to I did do an afternoon panel session, and then after that I thought, oh my gosh, something's really going on. I didn't know if I had the flu, but it didn't feel like the flu. And I called Gary, and I said, something's really going on. And I just run a half marathon the day before. And I didn't train for it. I just go out and run a half marathon because that's what sane people do, right? So I had some sciatica that was hurting, and I couldn't sit on the plane, the whole thing. I just felt really bizarre and off. So got home. That weekend, I thought, man, I went to the little clinic. I didn't have a doctor, never went to the doctor other than, a tooth infection, a tonsil infection or something once in a while. So went to this little clinic, said, I don't know what's wrong, but could you do some blood tests? And then they couldn't figure it out. Normal doctors, the blood tests, there's such a wide range. Like, oh, you're fine. Like, don't worry. So I go home and I'm thinking, I just don't know what's wrong. So then about 2 days later, I couldn't sleep. And I went about 5 days without any sleep. And I don't know if anybody's had insomnia, but you actually feel like you're going crazy when you don't sleep. And I just couldn't sleep. And then within 7 days of that highlight of my career, right? I just nailed it on top, thinking this is it. Within 7 days, I couldn't get out of bed. And I couldn't think. I couldn't get out of bed. I was just disoriented. I was starting to get scared because I thought this is a really weird feeling. And it just got worse from there. So then I'm starting to go to some other doctors, so I can't see anything that's wrong. Gary and I go, how many doctors do we go to, babe? I don't know, but probably 6 or 7 different doctors to try to find out what the hell's going on, and couldn't find anything. So this goes on for about 6 months, and each day is getting worse. And so each day I'm thinking it's going to get better, but it keeps getting worse. And now it's going from not being able to sleep for days to now I have like a sleeping disorder because now I'm having panics that I can't go to sleep at night, so that keeps me awake because I'm afraid I can't sleep, and that perpetuates and gets worse from there. Then I start to have, I said I had that one panic attack, now it's constant panic attacks. And when I come to find out at the time, I was stuck in a state of fight or flight. So when our bodies fight or flight's meant there for survival, to really assist us when we're in danger. And that's why there's all these stories of lifting up, vehicles off of children or whatever. It's like it serves us, but it's not to be there 24/7. But when you live a lifestyle or fight or flight, most of the time, these high adrenal lifestyles, you deplete your adrenal system and get you to the state of constant fight or flight. So I was in there, and what happens with the body then is that everything's really in focus. It's like, the saber-toothed tiger is going to attack you. So senses, you lose your appetite because the body goes to these different areas to keep you alert, but I couldn't come out of it. So I'm in this constant state of alertness and vibration and panic. Like I feel like I'm going to die constantly. And I got stuck there. So it is stuck, like at that high anxiety level, where it's so bad I couldn't function. And then, so that went on for several weeks where and then I couldn't sleep and I'm stuck and I don't know what's wrong and trying to get out of it, and Gary's freaking out and I can't go to the office, and Gary's trying, we live at this office building, and now we're living at home, and the poor guy, he doesn't know what's wrong with me. Here's his wife who's like always got a good head on her shoulders and going, and I go from Miss Independent, I don't need anybody, to I'm completely dependent on my husband. And again, so anyway, that went on and on and on until we found out so then from there it goes from high anxiety to uber depression. So I go through this really bad cycle of depression. And there's some people here that are close to me, and I called and said, or called me, they said, I've been through similar things, can I help out? And anyway, I didn't know what to do. So 6 months and going to doctor, I'm stuck in panic. I have to have a breathing device because I couldn't get my breath down, and I was counting my breaths. I could feel one little sensation, I'd be on a panic attack like that. And again, here's someone that just had her shit together. Had it, psychologically, I thought I was solid, all of that. So that goes on 6 months. We finally find out, after going through a series of doctors, I had this one friend of mine, his name is Dr. Anna Quebeca. She finally made it to her. She said, well, there's one thing, and she looked at all my charts, she couldn't figure it out. She said, there's this one thing, I think that I see that you had these mercury fillings taken out, these amalgams, so maybe you have mercury poisoning, because a lot of these symptoms are mercury poisoning. So come to get this heavy metal test, we get all these heavy metal tests and go through that, and it comes back that I'm like off the charts in these uber red zones of mercury, lead, thallium, rubidium, cesium, aluminum, like I think 6 or 7. And at the time, that goes from gradual, like green, you're in the safe zone, to red, you're in the danger zone, and I'm at the right at all these. And the other ones were pretty high too. And so she ran the test again. She said, there's no way you could do this test. And even they did it without these chelating agents at the time, because I was so sick, they're afraid to put chelation in me. And it came back again. So lo and behold, I had heavy metal poisoning. So that's physically what killed me, from a pescatarian diet, from aluminum in deodorants, from all the crap that we put on our skins, and there's a whole story around that alone, what I've come to find out since then, and some genetic disorders and things we've come to find out. But that was fine. So we actually found out like what we thought was wrong, and I was going through chelation and these different things and a whole series of that was to try to get healthy. Until life as life happens, I was going through all of this, and it was very difficult. And again, I'm not sleeping. Again, this is months of being on the edge of a panic attack and all these different things. And then what happened is we had an event here at work, actually, where one of my business partners, we'd come to find out, was trying to really sabotage things and do some really bad things. And this person was a good friend of mine. And going through all this, I felt so grateful that that I had this company that was being run by others that were helping me out. So while I was going through this, and come to find out, there were some underhanded things going on. So when I found out about that, it was the straw that broke the camel's back. And really where it went from really bad to worse was Gary and I were out at the lake house, and we're on the boat, and I couldn't leave the house for months, but I've got the time. I couldn't leave the house for months, but we finally said, I said, I'm going to go out to the lake house and see if I can do this for Gary. So we go out, because he loves the lake house, he loves the boat. We go out, we're on the front of the boat. He's driving, I'm on the bow of the boat, and I'm sitting up front, and I'm just holding on. I'm talking to myself thinking, okay, I can do this, just one more day, tomorrow will be better. This was every day. Tomorrow will be better, I can do this, tomorrow will be better. So all of a sudden, but I'm in the front of the boat, and all of a sudden, I just break down. I mean, complete breakdown, meltdown, bawling, crying. I couldn't even get my breath. I'm crying so hard. And what would happen is I had these flashbacks. Boom, it's like fire flakes. Boom, boom, boom. And it was every bad memory of anything bad I'd done in my life, everything that had happened to me. I had a lot of trauma as a child, and it just came. All these feelings of being a terrible mother, and I've done all these things wrong, boom, boom. And I mean, I couldn't handle it. It was just too much for me to handle. And it was at that moment in time I thought, I can't live like this. I want to die. I can't, this is suffering. Like, you can't live stuck in this place of anxiety and depression and PTSD. Like, it was, I just like, it wouldn't stop. I'm like, stop, just, babe, make it stop. And it wouldn't stop. So my poor husband, I mean, I'm trying all this 6 months. I'm trying my best to hold it together, and I've had my moments, but at this point, it was over. And so he takes me back. We have this friend who's a therapist, and this was a Sunday night. She meets with me till like 11 or 12 that night to just chalk me off this cliff to try to, save me. And so anyway, coincidentally, 2 days later, I was meant to see a psychiatrist, because I hadn't seen a psychiatrist in all this time, and I was trying to do it med-free and all these things. And by this time, I'm just like, I don't care, put a morphine drip in my arm, just take me out of my misery. Take me out. I don't even care. I just can't live like this anymore. So I go see this psychiatrist, and I was really looking forward to seeing her, because I thought, well, maybe she'll give me lots of drugs. Something to take me out, like give me a drip, whatever. So I go see her, and holding on, but I finally go see her, and she's listening to my story, and I couldn't even tell my story. Gary had to tell a lot of the story, because I just couldn't recite it again or go through it again. But I finally see her, and she says, I can't help you. I'm like, well, that's what I want to hear. And she said, yeah, this is PTSD. I can't do anything for you. You're way gone. And I am dying of heavy metal poisoning. So at this time, physically, my body was, I weigh probably 110 now. I was 95. So if you saw my arms, they were half the size they are now. My cheeks were in. If you'd have seen me, you'd have thought I was anorexic. And I have not too many pictures, but I have one or two where I actually look like I'm on death's door. So physically, my body is trying to recover. Oh, and the doctors, the toxicologists didn't know at the time if it was reversible because they'd never seen anything like that. And what happens with heavy metal poisoning, that level of mercury especially, and Anne can probably talk to a lot of this, but my brain was inflamed and all my organs were inflamed. So I was just a big vessel of inflammation. But my brain was so inflamed that I couldn't think, I was delusional, disoriented, I couldn't complete a sentence. I mean, it's remarkable to me that I'm the same person sitting up here because I couldn't complete a sentence. So anyway, the psychiatrist says, I can't help you. And she said, you need to go away. And I don't know if you know anybody that's gone through this, but when a psychiatrist tells you you need to go away, it's not a good place. That I had to go away to get treatment, to get help. And this is somebody that hasn't really needed a lot of help. And so I was sent away. And it's kind of a funny story, I won't go into it. I went to one treatment facility place first, and I broke out, believe it or not, because it was really bad, and found another one. So I actually found this great place in Beverly Hills, or actually in Bel Air, Beverly Hills, that tends to work with people that are celebrities or professionals, different things. And it's a very small environment. It's this beautiful place. And it's a 30-day program, and about a week and a half in, I said, I'm not going to get through this in a week and a half, so 60 days later I come out. But I disappeared off the face of the planet for 60 days, couldn't talk to anybody. I could talk to my husband a little bit, but it's just this bubble, this very protected environment where you go get help. So when I wound up there, I'm there at a treatment facility, psychological treatment, just to make that very clear. And I was very physically sick too, but right now it's like mentally sick. And I'm there, and all I can say is that I felt like the biggest failure in life. I felt that, number one, the ego was like, here, Christina Wise, of all people, why am I here and nobody else is, was a thought. And then I was just so ashamed. I thought, I'm just this pathetic human being that's showing up at a treatment facility for psychological help in like a psychological hospital. But this is a very fancy one. It's $100,000 a month to be here, and there's only 8 people allowed at a time, but it's a fancy one. But it's still, that's what it is. But I really thought, I felt so many things. I felt ashamed. I felt like a despicable human being. I felt like I'd failed as a mother. I'd failed as a wife. I'd failed everywhere in life. Just this deep shame and disgust of myself, like the whole 9 yards. And that was all that. And then on the other hand, I felt, but I can die here. My family doesn't have to see me die. That there's doctors here and psychiatrists here and medicine here and therapists here, that if I die or if I take my own self out at this point, because that seemed like a really good option, that at least I'll be away from my family, at least I'll be with lots of help. So that was in going in. And then my next book is going to be the 60 days. Because I learned more in that 60 days about life and about myself and about psychology and the importance of taking care of self and what that means, and being whole and not needing to be perfect, and being a love of self and having self-worth and all these things, and being good enough. Like all these life lessons I learned, like remember this flourish category? I've been on this self-development personal journey thing my entire life, reading every self-help books that I could ever buy in the bookstore, back when you bought books in a bookstore. But I learned more in that 60 days than all my years of studying. And that'll be like the book. But the moral of the story is that I go in feeling totally ashamed, full of shame. And I came out thinking I'm the luckiest person on the face of the planet, because I got 60 days to do nothing but work on me, to clean up my own psychology, to focus on, to become whole, to become real, to figure out what I want, and to get over my illness too. So in my sickness, so while I was there, I did go through chelation. A part of my healing was diet. So part of the cure was I had to radically change my diet. And that's why I'm just so intentional about the food we put in our bodies. But it ended up being this amazing experience. And so, it's a story I don't share publicly, but I will put it publicly in my book. But what I've come to realize is in the psychology piece that our psychologies are really fragile. And we're human, and we're real, and we're raw, and we're good enough. We're all good enough. We don't have to prove anything. Every one of us in the room is so good enough. And part of my ambition, all that story is in the stories I wasn't good enough. I had to go achieve something. I had to go be somebody. I had to go prove myself. I had to go have applause. And it was all external. Everything was external. And it was moving and going through this journey. And I do really believe that hero or heroine's journey, that I had to go through dark. And I know darkness. And I don't know if anybody of you, it's pretty human. Most of us reach some level of darkness in our life. But I was deep in the belly of darkness. And when you're in it, you never think you'll get out. And coming out the other side, what happened when I go through this? The beauty is I saw life totally differently. The philosophy is different. The psychology is different. My meaning of life is different. And it's just realizing that how delicate we are and how real life is and how much time we spend in the bullshit and the drama and the stuff that doesn't matter. And almost losing my life physically. And I don't know about you. Everyone in this room I think are thinkers. Who I am is my mind. I'm a thinker. I'm a creator. So when I lost my mind, my life wasn't worth living. So now it's like getting in touch with the why we're here, the philosophy. The psychology is how we feel and getting in touch. And as you do your work from here, I want everyone to do their work that you're good enough. Your spouse is good enough. We're all beautiful, beautiful human beings. And we're all here to make impact. We're all here to do our job that makes the world a better place. And 100% being vulnerable and awesome and real, and nobody has to fucking prove anything. Just be yourself. Be real. Be with your spouse. Love them. Be lovable. Feel. Before I showed up, I didn't know how to feel. I couldn't have empathy. I'd be like, fucking pull yourself up by your bootstraps. I did. It's like, no, that's not human. Live. Experience. Take time for the journey. Live in the 7 F's. The finances is only for the sake of the other 6. Create moments. Create experiences. Be here on purpose. Be present. That was another lesson. Is I lived so much in the future. I future tripped. I could never be present. I couldn't be present with my kids. I couldn't be present with my friends. I'd always be thinking of next, what's next, what's next, what I have to do, what I have to accomplish, what I have to be, how much money am I going to make. Like, be here. Be with the people around you. Give the gift of presence with your spouse. Be one. If we're single, be present with ourselves and spend this time to honor ourselves, to love, honor, and cherish ourselves first. Because only until we can love, honor, and cherish ourselves first can we truly love, honor, and cherish anyone else in life. Psychology is such a delicate and beautiful thing at the same time because it's what makes us human. And it's okay to feel. Empathy is a good thing. Being cold isn't. I was cold before. Being real with people, having experiences, sharing your vulnerabilities, being raw. We have, something, the 7 F word work is called RAW. And it stands for reflection and assessment of our wealthy life. But it's all about being raw here. So I give you permission. Thank you for giving me permission just to be honest and share the real story. And I'm still on the journey to get healthy. Like Anne's my doctor. I love you. Thank you. She's been such a part of my getting healthy. And she's changing the world, and get to know her because she's incredible. But we're still working on the health piece. Even that's a journey too. But remember, it's not just the physical health. We have to be mentally health. We have to be physically present with our minds and our hearts, and to live with our hearts and not just our minds, because everyone here is thinkers. So learn how to feel. All right, so do you want to get everybody on exercise?